Chapter 13, Jail. The trooper hadn't even said her name yet. Everyone, her parents, her sister, Sergeant Bogdan, the state trooper, and the three Hatford boys, their mouths hanging open in astonishment, was staring at Caroline. She could almost feel the color drain from her face and knew she had done something awful, yet the first words out of her mouth were, "How far did the bottle go?" "Caroline Lenore," cried her mother, "are you responsible for this?" It was just to make sure somebody called me if they found my bottle," Caroline said. Coach Malloy glared at all the kids in turn as though ready to blame the lot of them. A woman found the bottle along the river just below Hall. She called the state police from there. Hall? That little place north of Buckman, that's as far as it got? "But why on earth would you write such a thing?" Mrs. Malloy asked. "You said it wasn't a joke." "And it was a joke. Caroline, how could you do this?" Caroline was crying now, really crying. She tried to imagine herself in a courtroom facing a stern judge, how she would drop to her knees with her arms folded over her chest and throw herself on the mercy of the court. But the tears that were rolling down her cheeks now were real because she realized that her parents were furious with her. "Eddie," boomed their father, "do you know anything about this note?" "I didn't know she was going to write a goofball letter like that. We were just going to write a little message about how important it was that somebody call us before the end of the month. We weren't supposed to write the script for a play," Eddie said. "Then why did you make up such a story?" Miss Malloy asked Caroline. I was afraid that if I didn't make it sound important, someone might find my bottle and not call," Caroline explained. "And by that silly action, you have wasted the time of a state trooper and the Buckman Police Department," said Coach Malloy. "Not to mention the embarrassment that this has caused our family," said Caroline's mother. "Were you boys in on the bottle race too?" Coach Malloy thundered. "Yes, but," Josh began. "This isn't the first time we've been called over here either," said Sergeant Bogdan, "and it's always about something these kids have cooked up together." "What do you think, Sergeant?" asked Coach Malloy. "What would a proper punishment for Caroline be?" "And I think all these kids should be included, the boys too." "What?" cried Wally. "That's not for me to say," said Sergeant Bogdan, but Beth was astonished. "Us?" she cried. "What did we do?" "Since we've moved to Buckman, the authorities have been called out because Wally was trapped in the garage with the cougar, because a girl was missing after being lured over here to see the Abaguchi, because you kids were playing around the river, because of a note in a bottle. What am I missing? I'm sure there were others. You've taken up the valuable time of the police or fire department one too many times. All of you," Coach Malloy turned. "I'd like to volunteer these kids to do some work down at the police station, whatever you've got. And I'm sure that when I tell Tom Hatford what's happened now, he'll agree with me." "You mean like jail?" Caroline gasped, imagining herself in an orange prison jumpsuit. "He probably means cleaning toilets," Wally proclaimed. "Caroline, you knucklehead," said Beth. "I don't want to clean toilets." "What time do you want them to show up for duty, Sergeant?" said Coach Malloy. "Dad," cried Eddie, "I've got baseball practice." "So do I," said Jake. "It's not fair." "I didn't mean for this to happen," Caroline sobbed. "I didn't mean to get the other kids in trouble." "Of course not. Not any more than falling in the river," her mother said. Caroline looked desperately around the group, searching for a friendly face. "I throw myself on the mercy of the court," she said in a pitiful little voice. "Go throw yourself in the river," Jake muttered. "She tried that already and it didn't work," Wally said back. "Whenever you kids take up our time, whether you mean to do it or not, it's time we might have been called on to help someone in real trouble," said Sergeant Bogdan. "They'll be at the police station tomorrow afternoon," said Coach Malloy. "I think 2 days of helping out around the place should do it. Well, we've got an inspection coming up at the end of the month, and the reception area could use some cleaning. It would be much appreciated. Nice of you kids to volunteer. See you tomorrow." Caroline could hardly bear the disgust of the Hatford boys as they pulled on their soggy sneakers, picked up their raincoats, and stomped home. She closed her eyes against the disappointment of her parents, but it was the fury of her sisters she dreaded the most, and they let her have it in a minute they got upstairs. "You idiot! Don't you think before you do something?" Eddie exploded. "Now we're all in trouble because of you." "I'm sorry," Caroline wept. "Sorry doesn't help," said Beth. "What did you think would happen when someone found that note? This is not a joke you wrote. Of course they'd call the police. Of course the police would check it out." Caroline went into her room, closed the door behind her, and crawled under the covers with all her clothes on. She didn't think she would ever come out again. She would go down in the Guinness World Records as a person who crawled into bed as a girl and stayed there for 90 years. Her hair would grow white and her nails long. She'd lose all her teeth and they'd feed her through a straw, but she still wouldn't get out of bed. Then she had a thought. How would she go to the bathroom? Well, maybe she'd get out of bed for that. After the Hatford boys had come home from church on Sunday and both families had eaten their lunch, Caroline and her sister set off. At the end of the footbridge, the Hatford boys, all but Peter, were waiting, but they were not waiting for her. Beth and Eddie walked on ahead with Josh and Jake and Wally, and they all turned their backs on Caroline. Caroline began to sing a song her grandmother used to sing. Lonely and friendless and poor, nothing but sorrow I see, for I'm nobody's darling, nobody cares for me. She sang it softly at first, then more and more loudly, until the others up ahead could not help hearing her. Eddie turned around. Can it, Caroline? Are you guys going to stay mad at me forever? She asked. If we all hadn't sent bottles downstream, it wouldn't have happened. At least your bottle didn't go very far, Wally told her. At least you won't be queen. They walked down to the business district and into the police station. Sergeant Bogdan was talking to a new recruit. Oh, yes, here comes the dirt squad, he said when he saw Caroline and the others. Officer Clay, these are the Hatfords and the Malloys who live just up the river. Coach Malloy has asked if we could give them some cleanup jobs to do around here. Where do you think they should start? The new officer looked around. Seems to me about every inch of this place could use some work, he said. And Caroline's heart sank. Forever. That's how long she'd be here. Well, gang, how about doing the restroom and the windows to begin? The broom closet's back there. You'll find the rags and the window cleaner. We'll consider this a practice run. Then I want you back here the last Saturday of the month to get the reception area ready for inspection. 9 o'clock sharp. The kids quietly set to work. Any time a look was directed at Caroline, she noticed it was a scowl, not a smile. Wally purposely bumped into her every time he passed. Beth turned the other way, and Jake muttered, Well, are you happy now? As though she were the sole cause of their misfortune. They put Caroline to work in the restroom, of course, while the others did the windows at ground level inside and out. As she bent over the dirty toilet, holding the brush in both hands and scrubbing as hard as she could, she muttered, They want this place clean and beautiful, huh? Well, I'll give them beautiful. I'll make this place so beautiful they'll hardly know it's a police station. And her lips began to curl at the corners with just a hint of a smile. Chapter 14 is called The Fatal Word.